Joining us right now to talk about the special session down in Austin, State Representative Drew Springer, who I believe is on the road back to Austin.
I left early this morning, and I just pulled into Austin, and I apologize a few minutes late. Austin's got this weird rule about not using your cell phone, and it doesn't sound real good when I'm screaming at the rearview mirror. So I waited until I got into the house to get my suit on before I called you in.
Well, I appreciate you giving us a call today. Definitely don't want you to get a ticket down. I bet those are a little pricey down in Travis County. Let's talk about the special session. We're more than halfway through the special session. The Dallas Morning News, they had their own little, Abbott scorecard watch, and the Senate they've passed a lot. The House moving a little bit slower, which I don't think surprises anybody. Are you satisfied with the pace that the House is working? Would you like to see some things get up to speed? What's going on in the House with the special session?
No, I think the House wanted to definitely be deliberative in discussing the bills that we have in front of us. That being said, I would definitely like a much faster pace. I'd like to see longer deliberations earlier in the special. I passed last week one of the governor's bills. In fact, it's got a speaker bill number, HB 14, that makes sure that cities and counties can't fund abortion providers like Planned Parenthood, and which is going on across the state in a few locations. But it has yet to be set for the House floor, and I'm disappointed about it. I'd rather seen it on the floor this week instead of hopefully next week.
What's the holdup? Is it just this process of wanting to be deliberate, or what is it? What is it that you think is going on?
Well, the body is, and the House body is definitely different than the Senate. The Senate really, one guy controls the whole pace, and that being the lieutenant governor. In the House, there's a few handfuls of people that can control how these things move through. And so, on this one, I think that there's some people who are wanting to look at it a little bit more. I've been told, and I do appreciate they want to make sure we don't get a point of order, because obviously, there's numerous Democrats who don't like the bill, and so they want to try to find any way they can to kill it. And so we're trying to make sure it's clean before it gets to the floor. But, I do believe it'll get there. And, I'm like a West Texas, all the guys out there in West Texas, we like to work hard, and we like to get things done. And, when things move slow, sometimes it frustrates us.
Right. Visiting with State Representative Drew Springer, let's talk a little bit. I know there's been some back and forth about the teacher retirement system and how to pump some more money into the teacher retirement system. There's a plan in the House right now that I believe it would dip into the rainy day fund, and there are some Republicans who like that idea, others who don't like that idea. On the flip side, you have members in the Senate who don't like that idea, and they want to do sort of a different process. What do you think about teacher retirement system? What needs to be done? And then do we need to dip into, or at least do you favor dipping into the rainy day fund to fund the TRS?
Well, it's good to see that both the House and the Senate have really agreed on the retired teacher aspect of softening the blow that they're taking in the big increase of the retirees' health care costs. And so we're really down to how do we pay for that roughly $200 million. The House is saying, hey, we've got over $10 billion sitting in rainy day fund. It's money in the state's checkbook or in our savings account, but let's take it from there. The Senate's plan is more of what they're saying. Well, let's defer a payment and not pay a payment this year, and we'll just push it and pay it the first day of next year. And so that way it doesn't count against us. At the end of the day, we're still spending the same money. I know when I ran in the 83rd, one of the big issues was that there was all these accounting gimmicks done in the 82nd, and people didn't like it. They said, we want to be transparent. So I support saying, hey, let's be clear to the taxpayers that this is what it's cost. Let's don't give them the misunderstanding that says there's some magic money out there and we have all this money in our savings account, and we're really not showing them the fact that, we're going to have a credit card payment due.
It is either way we do this. If we tap into rainy day fund or if we do this accounting deal, is it kicking the can down the road to the next legislative session or to future legislative sessions when it comes to funding TRS?
Well, and we're talking about TRS Care, not the pension. The pension is actually fairly close to being actuarially sound. We made a lot of moves on that on the 84th. TRS Care is a pay-as-you-go, and we knew we had this coming up here in the 85th and really in the 86th. The problem is a little bit bigger. I don't think we're kicking it down the road. We know that we're basically trying to figure out what level do we want to increase what the retirees are going to pay. There were some that were going from, that were having a 500% increase in their premium as well as their deductibles were going up as well. And so, the retirees, bless them, but they're a very active group and said, look, we just don't think this is right. And I think that's why, we're as a state sitting here saying, let's soften it by about $200 million and we'll come back next time. We've asked retirees and we're telling them if you retire before 65, when you're eligible at whether it's 52 or 54, you're going to be paying a much higher health insurance cost than if you wait to retire later.
Visiting with State Representative Drew Springer here on the Chad Hasty Show. Want to move on to property tax reform. Obviously, that's one of the big headline grabbers that's been in the news. And I believe, yesterday there was a lot of debate about which way to go, I guess, on property tax reform. I'll read just a quick line here out of the Texas Tribune. On Wednesday, members of the House took a far more expansive approach, considering proposals ranging from the narrow, carving out a new exemption for Purple Heart recipients, to the explosive, abolishing school property taxes altogether. What are we looking at as far as property tax reform in the House goes? What do you think?
Well, I think you're using the exact term, I think, for both the House and the Senate this time, and that is reform, not relief. When I say that, the bill that we've already passed through the House, which was HB 32, deals with the appraisal method and how that will go out going forward, how the taxing entities will have to tell you how much they're going to personally cost you by not adopting what we used to call the effective rate, which hopefully we will be calling the no new tax revenue rate. From that standpoint, we have it hasn't hit the House floor yet on the rollback side of things, but once again, that's a reform, not a relief. Yesterday in Ways and Means, though, as a committee, we started discussing how can we give property tax relief, and that may be saying, hey, we want to increase the sales tax rate up to 14 cents and eliminate the M&O for schools. We had a hybrid method, and I think there will be a few other ones discussed as we work on it during this interim to figure out what should be the shift away from our reliance on property tax to other forms of taxation.
Very interesting. The bathroom bill. And I don't know if there's an interview that goes by where people aren't asked about the bathroom bill, at least if you're a state lawmaker. What do you think is going to happen with this? Is this something that's going to pass in the House? I know the Senate considers it a priority. Obviously, the Speaker of the House doesn't consider it a priority. You have numerous businesses that have come out against the bathroom bill, but you have a governor and a lieutenant governor that want the bathroom bill. Where do we come out on this one, you think?
Well, whether it may be the problem was we started with one bathroom bill, and I think everybody continues to talk about that one, while the one the governor called for was actually my desk mate's Ron Simmons' bill. I think Ron's, if I describe it to most people, which is, hey, the way we were about 4 years ago when principals took care of kids that were going through this transitioning period, to where they could let them use the principal's bathroom, the nurse's bathroom, but yet, it wasn't a boy saying, I'm going to be a girl, and all of a sudden, he can walk into my 17-year-old daughter's locker room. most people say, yeah, I agree with that. And we weren't going to, and it doesn't touch businesses. They can do whatever they want, just like Target can. Mm-hmm. And that's really it. And I like the bill so much that I'm one of the joint authors on that bill. That being said, I don't think it passes the House. I think the perception is one that that leadership has said we just think the image is bad, and we're not going to make any efforts to move it. And I think that's been pretty clear and disappointing from my perspective, because I'd like to get it taken care of. And when I talk to folks in my district, I'd say well over 90%, when you describe it to them, agree with that.
If it were to come up for a vote, do you think it would pass?
I do.
See, isn't that the problem that a lot of folks have right now, is that these are bills that a lot of folks think would pass, but they're not allowed to be voted on? It must frustrate you and others.
It is. I mean, there's no doubt that is one of the challenges we face in that. But those are sort of some of the things is, when you give somebody the speakership and then they get to pick who they like in chairs, those start reflecting. And this one's more probably public, but there's a lot of bills that probably could pass if we could get them to the floor. But for whatever reason, those chairmen don't like that idea, that bill, or and it may be just, hey, if I'm a chairman and somebody in an urban center passes something that's really good for all of urban Texas and hurts rural Texas, if I'm a chairman, I'm going to sit on that bill too. So I can't say that I wouldn't do the same thing if I'm in that same spot on a different situation. And so that's just that's the way the rules have been. That's the way we've operated as a state. It's nothing new. I think it's just highlighted more this time because of some of the public airings of that bill more than others.
Representative Drew Springer, as always, appreciate your time, and we'll let you get down. Get down to the floor and do the work of the people.
All right, Ted. Great to be on.
Thank you. That's State Representative Drew Springer here on the Chad HD Show.